Hey everybody, thanks for joining me at the Red Barn. In this episode, we continue working on the Ferrari 360 Swap 914 by getting to work on the exhaust system and one other really super cool feature. And while I got you, how about you click that subscribe button right there? I mean, like, it's right there. Boop, click that subscribe button. Oh, and at the end, we got some kitties too. So, hope you enjoy this one. And before we get started on any new work with this episode, I wanted to just go back and acknowledge a couple comments that we got about these struts. The popular one was, hey, you should have used Heim joints on the end of this thing, and then they would have been adjustable and all that good stuff. And yeah, I absolutely considered Heim joints, but I actually like the way these things look. They're very tidy, and you know, it ties into the fact that there's other bungs and there's little fittings there. Now, that's not to say that I'm not going to go back and revisit the Heim joint thing, because as my buddy Rick from 914 World pointed out, if these become problematic to fit, then yeah, I'll go back and just replace them with Heim joints on the end, which is no big deal. But what I'm surprised no one gave me a hard time about, which I'm now realizing after putting it all together, is the end result would be I want to powder coat everything. And if you go back and watch what it's like to put these in here, I made a mistake in that I should have put some, little teeny shims on each side before I put these plates in and welded them. Same thing with those tabs, because if I powder coat these things, they're not going back in there. And, well, not if I do them just like this. So worst case, if you heard me say, these bungs are a little bit wider than an inch, so I can probably just machine off the thickness of the powder coating before I send them to powder coat and resolve the problem that way. And that also might be, the lousy reason why I end up putting Heim joints in there, but we'll see how that goes. So now, I think I want to start working on the exhaust. I'm going to start with these set of Borla Pro XS mufflers. 2.5 in, 2.5 out, and these are bidirectional. So I want the car to be I'd like the car to be quiet, yeah, Ferrari motor and all that, but I don't want the thing to be hard to be in when you're driving it around. So I always like to do at least one offset, a little bit of an offset if I can, just because, I don't know if you can see that, but if you look in there, at least it's got it's a straight through, but at least it's got a little bit of a change of shape to try to help the muffler muffle a little bit. But anyway, the other thing I like about these offsets is now there's another thing that's important about this muffler thing, and that is, what does the muffler mount to? I've got a couple options. I can put part of a flex pipe somewhere between the header and the muffler and let the engine move while the muffler's mounted not to the drivetrain, but mounted off of, I've got a convenient spot here. I've got, I can put a bracket back here if need be, like I did in the LS car. But the other option is, this is the Ferrari 360 muffler bracket. And what it did is there's another component that I don't have handy that bolts on right here. And then this thing sits like this. It's a whole different kind of muffler system, but you get the idea. So one of the options is I could hard mount the entire exhaust system to the transaxle and not use anything here. Don't tie it to anything that's rigid to the chassis, and just let the entire exhaust system move with the drivetrain, like in the LS car. And that thing's got over 5,000 miles on it, and it works fine. So again, more stuff to work out. All right, here's contender number one. They're just laid down flat with this offset on the outside of the strut. And these are laid down flat, obviously, and that maximizes the gap between the tops of the mufflers and the bottom of the trunk floor, which would be about here. So, it's kind of got everything going in the right direction. I don't mind the look. And then from the back, again, sitting on cardboard boxes that aren't the same height, they're not rotated correctly, but the idea of very mechanical looking with the Ferrari cover peeking out the bottom. You can see up there to the, to that mount and all that. So lots of mechanical goodness to be seen from the back. And these little spacers that I got under them, kick them up at the rear so they are canted a teeny bit. their lowest point, they are higher than the bottom of the drivetrain and all the mounts. And so just, you know, kind of a little minor style point there. It makes it look like there was some thought put into it, not just a flat muffler sticking out the back. And it gets the exhaust tips up closer to the bumper anyway. But I think this is going to be worth pursuing because it's relatively simple and it makes sense, and I'm not overthinking anything yet. And again, it's not like that looks horrible. I think I can live with that, especially if I black out the ends of those mufflers and all you see is, you know, kind of keep it this look, right? So the mufflers would be black with silver tips. This case is black with the silver Ferrari, you know. I don't know. Anyway, so I think I'm gonna start chipping away at getting this to be the setup. Yeah, I think I am. Okay, I got a great idea. Check this out. It's that! What in the world am I thinking? So, with a little bending, I've picked up these mounts and I've got myself a muffler fixture. Now, what's awesome about this whole deal is the license plate frames between the mufflers, but look where that transaxle case is. It's not even remotely close to being in the middle of the car, which is awesome. And we knew that. If you go all the way back to the early episodes, the transmission cover is not symmetrical to the transmission. And you can see it here. There's the center line of the transmission. And look at that thing. It's way off to that side. And so it's going to be one of those things that when you really look closely, or even if you don't look that closely, it's somebody put it in wrong. But anyway, what this little fixture does for me is it lets me keep those mufflers right there. And now I just need to worry about supporting the other ends of them. Now this is, like I said, it's just a fixture. That's not a mount, although I'm halfway tempted to make something that does that and just weld it to the muffler, because that actually kind of looks cool. Of course, obviously it wouldn't work because I'd never be able to get it out of the car. So, yeah. Fixture of the muffler. Now I just got to play with, you know, this angle and this height, but I've got this gap where I want it. It clears the underneath of the muffler just right, and I like it. I think this is going to be really cool. Yeah, so good progress for the initial go at the exhaust system. I'm happy. Well, you didn't think I could do that without making any changes, did you? So here's the deal. Same setup-ish, but 2 inches per side closer together. And so I just remade that muffler jig and narrowed it up. And I like it better this way, but boy, oh boy, you can really see that that transmission is offset to the left. The closer those mufflers get together, you know, the more that it's obvious that that thing's not centered, which is fine, because I think it's kind of cool. I don't mind that. Here you get a good idea now with this setup of just how raked that muffler is. And I think that looks pretty cool. There's a little bit of tweaking left to do on that, but I really like that. And then here's a little insight into kind of the process. Martin came over today. I asked for him to come by and get some opinions on some things, and that's a piece of MDF that's been set in place. And then what happens is, marking and setting straight lines and endpoints of the ins and the outs. And now can you see this set of dotted lines is where the axle is, so that we can pull it out. And we did the same thing over here. All right, this is the driver's side, this is the header, and this is the input for the muffler. And yeah, the muffler is tipped at this angle, right? So what's going to actually happen, forget this for a second, but this piece will actually be cut in such a way that it still be square to everything, but it'll rotate up so it can pick up the angle of the muffler, and then it'll just be cut at a slightly different angle here, so it'll be square to this piece when it joins. But this gives you the idea of the process of how to connect the dots on getting these things done. And what this also means is that this whole exhaust system will be hard mounted to the drivetrain. So the headers, hard mount, come back to here, hard mount to this, and it should be just fine. Like I said, the LS has it that way, and it works just great. What else? Oh, I've been messing with you about this thing. So this is my next door neighbor, longtime next door neighbor, George, had this up in his storage loft, basically. And we lost George, about 3.5 years ago. He lived a great life well into his 80s. And his daughter inherited the property next door, and this was she moved it outside, and it was sitting outside, and I'm like, hey, what are you going to do with the car? And long story short, it showed up in the back of a truck in my driveway with somebody saying, you want this thing? Because we're just going to throw it out. And I'm like, you can't throw it out. So it is as it says, number 40 Coors Light, Sterling Marlin. We think it was like a 2005. I know nothing about NASCAR. 2005 Dodge. And I guess it's like half scale. It's got just over a 50-inch wheelbase. And, I thought, what am I doing? I don't need this clogging up my garage. And I figured, some NASCAR fan would love to have this. It doesn't do anything. It's just an empty shell display vehicle. It's got this little rudimentary square, rectangular chassis, and these cheapy little just studs welded on. It doesn't turn. It doesn't do anything. Plastic tires. So I don't know what they used it for. Maybe it was a giveaway. Who knows? But I was just gonna, put it on Craigslist or something and sell it. And then I thought, wait a second. How about we make the body so it tips up, and we put an HO slot car track in it? And I don't know if you guys saw this. Here's a picture of it. This thing sold for like 200 grand on Bring a Trailer. Now, granted, we're not trying to do anything like this, and it's a 917 and it's life size, and it's by Slot Mods. So legit, serious company that does these kind of diorama slot car tracks. But this thing's going to become an HO scale version of that, and we'll put it up on a like a 2-foot high table, and it's smaller than a pool table. So I'm sure somebody would love to have something like this in their man cave or in their basement or whatever. So anyway, not that I need another project, but that's what's going to happen to that thing. Okay, I'm waiting for some exhaust tubing to get shipped. Here, last time I was bragging on Summit being right around the corner and getting me stuff overnight, but guess what? They've also got a distribution center in Texas, and that's where these exhaust tubes are coming from, the stainless components that I need. So I want to keep moving, so I wanted to shift up to looking into the cooling system. So the deal with these cars is typically radiator in here, and this kind of gives you the frontal view. This car has louvers in the floor pan, or the trunk floor, and what typically is done is, if I show you the front of it, there's an intake here for an oil cooler, and the oil cooler would sit just behind the nose. And if you saw the 914-6 oil cooler shroud setup that I did in a couple of other episodes, you would recognize kind of what you're looking at. So louvers for the venting of the oil cooler air out the bottom of the car, but this car needs a radiator. Now, 914 folks will also say, hey, what's going on with all this stuff in here? This car was heavily modified prior to me getting it with a whole separation of the trunk floor into a lower section, which was going to house the oil cooler. And I think there was like an air compressor, or maybe an electronic air compressor, or was that going to be a battery box or some such thing for the AC? Anyway, this is all got to go. The other issue that I've got to deal with is I've got to vent the radiator. And in the LS car, as you've seen, I did the hood vents right here. But that's sort of a very non-traditional look for a 914. So what I want to do this time is keep the whole exterior of the car looking pretty much like that, obviously, other than the Ferrari motor poking through the top of the rear. But I'm going to go ahead and vent the fender wells. And this actually works great. It's been done for decades on 914 V8 conversions. So let me go ahead and fit the radiator, and I'll explain a couple of the other ideas that I've got. Okay, now this is an old model. I'm not going to use this radiator. This was donated to the project by my good buddy Harry. And this is an old Renegade kit, Ron Davis made radiator. And I don't have any mounts in here. I'm just playing with sort of like trying to get some ideas. It's essentially the same size. And I'm not worrying about building a mount for this. I'm worried about some venting stuff that I want to try out. So I just made up this little handy dandy radiator holder to help locate it. And yes, it'll tip forward a little bit, but like I said, I'm more concerned about some of the other stuff I want to play with. And that is, I want to try to keep some front trunk. And normally you just give that all up because, you know, hot air, got to get up through the fender wells. But here's my thinking. Okay, now this part is a cut up modified Renegade kit component that would normally sit here. So I'm not going to, you know, it will have a shroud here. But now imagine what you're seeing here. If I just made a little panel that connected these two things up, and I ended up with something approximately like that. Okay? So that gives me to this level of the fender well, from here down, to vent. And it also provides not a ton of room, but some room, you know, for a tool bag or maybe a small soft bag. And I think I like the way it looks. I'll completely shroud the underside of this thing, but it gives me some storage space, which I like. And you can see this was where this piece originally fit. And as much as I'd love to have that much space, it doesn't provide me enough venting in the fender wells. What I also want to do is, there is a possibility that that area can be used for a battery if I built ducting that split the fan, two fans, but if I built ducting that did something along the lines of this, so that there would be a blade that started right about here and it curved back and just ducted this air right out these vent holes, that I could preserve this space for a small battery. And then those of you that aren't familiar with this, this is the late model fuel pump cover. And that would allow me to run a stock looking gas tank with the appropriate fuel pump here. And with this baffle, I'd provide a way for heat to stay away from the fuel pump, even though it's outboard of the gas tank. So I'm going to go to work on making up this curve and try to get it shaped appropriately for down here to see if I can come up with a ducting system that I like. All right, so making a curve, making something that curves around in this general area. If only there was something curved about the right diameter and compound shaped that might be fun to play with. Well, as you've heard me say, nothing like reusing parts. Now this, what in the world is this? If you look back at my friend's motorcycle with the gigantically wide tires, he had a bunch of these made. And if you cut them in half and weld them together around that seam, you have a basis for a giant motorcycle fender. And I was looking at these at his place the other day, and I thought, I wonder if there's a way to repurpose that and end up with a really cool vent component, you know, ducting component. So I'm going to see what I can do. And he had a bunch of spares, and he happily donated this to the cause. So let's cut this up and see what we can come up with. And believe it or not, I really do these test fits. Like, I try to do them first time, so you guys are living it with me. But what I was thinking is, the way this steps in with this curve and goes flat, if you look what's going on back here, there's a curve there. Now, it's not straight up, so this may need to be tweaked, but my hope is that this thing, oh my God, I'm gonna see if I can position it kind of where it would live. And it's not, it's obviously it's stood up, but that is almost exactly the right diameter. Oh my goodness, the way the world works. That is almost the exact diameter for the fan. And it's almost the right setup. Now, I can notch this here to get it under this little, angle, and then bring the rest of the shroud straight up to follow this, or to follow the opening. But look at that. And it's flat, it's flat on the bottom. Oh my God, I gotta cut another one of these and get this in here. Now the other thing is, I can cut the other half and have it come up around here, and maybe I have just a whole tube, a fan tube, going out into that. Now, the other thing that's very cool, look how it clears that mount. Look how it clears the fuel pump cover, so I can totally get a battery in here. This is looking really good. So, huge thanks to my buddy Jim for making the Jaffa motorcycle and having a few extra fender blanks lying around. I think this is going to work out really well. And, the odds of me being able to fabricate that shape are about 0. And it's that same thing of like, man, look for cool shapes in your shop, look for cool shapes in your buddy's shop. And I think I can have a super duper awesome ducted system. Yeah. Oh, the other thing about that is, if I do have a top piece here, then that cover could be separated from it a little bit, and that would provide a little bit of insulation from the hot air getting into the actual trunk area. So I'm gonna go cut another 1/4 and see if I can come up with a top piece that I like, or use it as a bottom piece. And so I'm just gonna keep at this and see where I end up. And there's both of them. Well, 2 of them. Now, don't be too concerned. You'll notice that the center of those 2 things, which are cut pretty much equally, those don't meet the center of the fans. And that's because this side of the radiator, the fan is offset to the edge of this. On this side, the fan goes all the way outboard to the edge of the radiator itself, the tank. So these fans are offset this way. And I have a later model in the LS car, and the fans are centered. So this design, I will wait till I get the actual radiator before I go too crazy, but this design should work with the newest model of the Renegade radiator. But look at that. I have a ducted system layout and space for other stuff. So yes, that also means that this system, I got to figure out a way to make it, removable, or make parts of it removable, so I can do things like get to whatever I put down there, whether it's the fuel pump, the battery, what have you. So still some stuff to work out, but this is looking really cool. So I think that's going to do it for this episode. Sorry I didn't make more progress on the exhaust system, but I got to get the parts, and they're not going to come in until the day before I generally publish, so I don't have any time to do the work. But I hope you're as excited as I am about how well that reuse of a custom motorcycle fender blank is going to work for my radiator ducting system. So thanks very much for watching. Comments, questions, subscribe if you haven't. And let's go check out the kitties. And we'll see y'all again real soon. Everybody take care now. Bye-bye. All right, for this update, we're out here in the morning, and it's been 1,000,000 degrees, and the lighting's not great because the sun's right behind me, but look at the maniacs. They're climbing the walls. There's Toddy. Oh, hi, Mama. And there's Smash. Smash is very excited. And Punch is very curious. And Toddy coming in for the close-up as always. Oh, get that camera. Get that camera. Bap, bap, bap. Where's Vespi? Oh, Vespi, as I keep saying, quiet girl. She's kind of hanging out inside. Just being mellow. But these guys are out enjoying the day. Hey, Smash, what do you say? Toddy just wants to keep coming in for more. Hi. Oh, bap, bap, bap. Bap, bap, bap. Look at the Punch man. He's such a boy. He's a big man. What you got? What do you got there? Huh? And it has been super hot here. And we got a little air conditioner going. Not yet, but we got an air conditioner in here so these guys stay nice and cool during the day. And then here in Petaluma it cools off at night. So we benefit from that. Hey, Mama. How's Mama doing? Hi, Mama. Yeah. Hi, Todd. Oh, how you doing? Hi, how are you? Hi. Yeah. Oh, hi, Mama. Hi, Mama. Oh, such a good girl. Hi. Oh, yes. Scratches. Hi. Oh, she's such a good girl.
So here's a fun little fact.
Yeah?
So the babies are just 9 weeks old this weekend.
Yeah, 9 weeks old.
Mama is in heat.
Oh, yeah. So what's...
Already, she's been sitting out there singing and calling to any male suitors who might be listening.
Yeah, and if that's not coming through, I'll repeat what my wife just said. Julep is in heat again. 9 weeks after giving birth, she's in heat. We think she's been in heat for about a week. And she'll come outside into this catio and do what she's doing here, rolling around, and she usually makes noise, and she's trying to let any local males know that she's ready for more babies. So again, folks, spay and neuter. We gotta get this cat population under control. It's a real challenge. So, as much as we love these little guys, we need less of them in the world. So, as always, support your local rescue. And then, oh, one of the other things you can do is there's something called TNR. If you've got feral cats near you, you can do what's called trap, neuter, and release. And so there are some organizations to, check locally. But easy there, big man. You can capture the cats, take them in, have them spayed or neutered, and then release them. It's almost never a good idea to try to domesticate a feral. The girls are going at it, and they make sometimes they can be domesticated, but oftentimes it's best to just trap them, spay, neuter, and release them as long as they're safe where they are. So we're gonna leave it with that. Punch says yes, please do that. Smash says thank you for the Chewy box. Best part of the shipment is the box, isn't it? Yes. Okay, we'll see you guys later. All right, remember, support your local rescue.